everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sipping Tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I'm Z. Hello, hello.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Konnichiwa. Hiya. All day. Hey, girl, hey.
Yeah, hey, girl, hey. So today's episode is about unconventional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to get right into it.
It's gonna be juicy.
Let's hope.
It's really
So this is the part of the episode where we do tea of the day. We are not tea experts. Talk to your doctor, drinking herbal tea, yada yada yada. So what is the tea? Yes. What is the tea on the table?
So continuing with our springing into tea season, if you will, I found another place in DC to have high tea. And this is the mansion on O and O Street Mansion. So they go back and forth. I don't know why they call it the mansion on O Street. Oh, sorry. O Street Museum. My bad. I can't read. I can't read today. I had a long day, y'all. So for the ultimate high tea party in the heart of DuPont, the mansion on O offers a private room packages for 10 or more people at $90 a person. It's a 5-course spread, complete with butler service and a self-guided tour of the historic museum. Comes with tea forte, loose leaf collections, and bottomless bubbly. That right there, folks. That right there. Yes, okay. Pastries, savory bites, cheese plates, and more. It is, you can get a tour for $60 per person and for groups of 15 or more.
Wait, so the tour is not included in the price of the tea?
You can have the tour is not included with the tea.
Okay, so the tea is just $90.
If you do a dessert, tea, and museum tour of $60 per person, that's just if you don't do the 5-course meal. The 5-course meal with the museum and the tea is $90. If you just want tea and the tour, it's $60.
So the 5 courses is what, like desserts, savory bites, like what, cucumber sandwiches and stuff like that? Okay.
Pastries, cheese plates,
charcuterie
boards,
a charcuterie board,
and charcuterie boards. Yes, I have been to the mansion on O. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun. We got dressed up in our high tea gloves and hats. The museum is like really quirky. Mm-hmm. It's funky. It has like pictures, just eclectic stuff. There's different things you can like go through a scavenger hunt. Mm-hmm. I went there for a drag brunch. Mm-hmm. And it was so much fun. I highly recommend it. Lots to see in there. Okay. And I think it was a good time. I enjoyed myself.
All right.
So I recommend it.
Definitely something to make sure we keep on the list of things and activities to do.
I definitely concur.
All right.
So check it out, y'all.
So the tea on the table, we just did that. The hot tea.
The hot tea.
It's a bit of hot tea. Some of it is a little cold, but some of it is piping. Mm-hmm. Piping. So yeah, some of the cold tea is Oscars. So the Oscars have come and gone. Yep. And I'm just gonna say this: Jennifer. What the hell is her name? Jamie Lee Curtis should not have won Best Supporting Actress. I said it. And here's why. It's not just so much because Angela Bassett.
She thought she should win it. Honestly.
Well, who knows? It's not even so much that Angela Bassett should have gotten it, right? Because that is still debatable for some people. But I keep want to call her Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Scream Queen.
Wasn't even the best supporting actress in her own movie, okay? So I forgot what the other, it's just left my mind, but there was another woman.
Halloween Ends?
No. It was another woman who was also nominated for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once for supporting actress, and she was way better than Jamie Lee Curtis. So even if she would have gotten it over Angela Bassett, I would have been like, okay, that makes sense because that role was equally good, and I can understand why people would have voted more avant-garde than Marvel movie.
Right.
But Jamie Lee Curtis, no, ma'am. I'm sorry. And I love Jamie Lee Curtis, but she did not deserve. I didn't really watch many of the movies that were nominated, so I don't really have. And this is like the first year I didn't even watch the Oscars. Mm-hmm. So I don't really have an opinion overall on all of the winners. There's still some controversy. We live in this very woke era, very, like very woke era. So there was some controversy surrounding Brandon Fraser's portrayal in The Whale, because it's like, why not just hire an actor to actor, I don't want to say fat, but that's a larger size actor to play that part, other than putting somebody in a fat suit. And to that, I say, just he's an actor. That's what acting is about. So it's about playing somebody that you aren't. So I don't really see a problem unless, but I see where some people's like, well, you don't want somebody playing somebody black if they're not black. Yes, people have done that. And of course, but that to me is a little different.
Right, Robert Downey Jr.
I mean, but that was funny. Thunder. I'm sorry, Tropic. That was so funny to me, and that definitely is not something that would be able to get made now. I mean, a lot of the movies that we watch, I won't say grew up on, but a lot of the movies that we've watched in our young adulthood would not fly at today. All. And it's sad because some of that shit is hilarious.
Was hilarious.
Like, Me, Myself, and Irene, you would not be able to get that. That would not pass the muster at all.
No, it wouldn't. But that was a funny movie.
Yes, it was. I remember when I first saw that movie theater, my mouth was like, I can't believe that they are showing this. Like, what the hell? The part that got me is in the beginning. If you haven't seen it, then, I mean, this is not a spoiler because the movie's been out for over a decade. Right. When he was breastfeeding off of the lady on the bed. I said, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. This right here is a bullshit. I couldn't believe what I was watching, but I kept that up.
That was shock and awe, man. That was shock and awe back then.
Yes. So Shirley Ralph, we all know her, love her. She is, why? I'm having a brain freeze today, which is weird. I feel like I used all of my mental capacity earlier today because I had a couple of appointments. Yeah. And so now I just don't have it. So forgive me. She's on Abbott Elementary and her name is Miss, I don't know. And it's going to kill me with, what is her name on Abbott Elementary? Anyway, as I figure out what her name is on Abbott Elementary. She recently was on a podcast, I believe, and they were talking to her, asking her questions and about, I guess her life. And she mentioned that she was sexually assaulted or molested by a famous TV show judge. And this was when Moesha was on.
Oh shit.
And she was sexually assaulted and molested by a famous TV show judge, but said Miss Howard, that's her name, Miss Howard. I knew Miss Howard. So Barbara Howard, that's her character on Abbott Elementary.
Miss Barbara.
So she mentioned that it was a famous talk show judge, but went to say that it was not Judge Mathis. So people did their own deduction as to who it could possibly be. She never said. But people started to speculate that it was Judge Joe Brown. And I understand why, because if you've seen him after his show has gone off, he's really out of pocket. That dude has some issues. Yeah, Judge Joe Brown ain't right too
Doesn't
tight.
He have a show?
He might have like a podcast or something, but
didn't one of them like get a whole reality show?
That's
with
Judge
their family?
Mathis. That was Judge Mathis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Hold on, y'all.
Not like we on the phone. Sometimes we just talk so well. Like I forget that we're really in a podcast.
Girl, hold on a second. Let me go get this thing right quick. I'll be right back.
So she alluded to the fact that he, that somebody sexually assaulted her, molested her, and he just went off like, I'm going to threaten legal action. And everybody's like, sir, but she never mentioned your name. So hit dogs holler. Because everybody else speculated. Twitter speculated. The internet speculated. But she never speculated. And he basically told on himself because why did you automatically assume it was you, sir?
Right.
She didn't say if he was black or white. She just said a famous
There's a bunch
TV show.
of TV show judges.
Yeah, she said he grabbed her, he being the person that she accused, not Judge Joe Brown. Meaning she didn't say it was him, but
right.
And like stuck his tongue down her throat or like tried to like was grabbing all on her, like very like, which I personally
Ew.
witnessing his behavior since his show and on the internet, I believe that would probably he did that shit.
What has
I
he been
wholeheartedly
doing?
believe it.
He's just out there in these streets wilding.
I fully believe that he did it. So I mean, time will tell.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, but I believe it.
Right.
And it's allegedly based off of Twitter and the internet, not allegedly based off of her. Because again, she never called him out directly. She never said it was him. So
why he gonna jump up and say, I'm
hit dogs holler? This is a very classic case of hit dogs holler.
Sir, did she bring up your name? Well, no. Well, how you even gonna go to litigate a case like that?
Who you gonna sue, sir? The internet?
Because the internet. You gonna sue all them Twitter people? You gonna
sue Al Gore for creating the internet and allow these people to bring your name up,
right? And Elon,
and these allegations,
sue him for people being on Twitter.
Right? You gonna sue Elon, right? Like, come on, sir. So
get it together, sir.
And he's a judge. He has a full ass law degree. He should know better. So come on, sir. What are you doing, sir?
You just told on yourself, sir. Yeah. I hope that it gets resolved, but I hope that she is getting the care and has some peace with herself.
Yeah.
And healing that she needs.
Absolutely.
For that.
And then on the flip side, this is very disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
So over the weekend, Saturday, Jonathan Majors was arrested for assaulting a woman who we later found out was his girlfriend over her seeing him texting someone in her presence, another woman, excuse me. And apparently he strangled her, allegedly strangled her and caused some injuries to her face. And immediately after it came out, his lawyer said unequivocally, this is untrue.
Right.
It's unfounded. We have proof. There was a taxi driver who saw the incident. We have video footage of it. And then the woman who the police actually came and took her to the hospital because of the visible signs of injury.
Mm-hmm.
Also apparently recanted with two different statements that this did not happen. He did not do it. Okay, so that's the first part. So if you just took that for what it is, then you would say, okay, he didn't do it, or you would still say, where there's smoke, there's fire, right?
Right.
However, and I'm not giving my opinion on this one way or the other. I'm just giving you what I know what I've read and what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
A few months back, my Twitter feed my algorithm is all crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it always shows me a lot of stuff. I get a lot of blind items. Like I got a blind item about, and I think we even talked about this a while ago. It was a blind item. Oh, it was a blind item about Niecy Nash and how she's unpleasant to work with.
Okay,
and the person was talking about it because the person was working on the set of the Dahmer show, and the information that the person gave in the tweet, if you did your reasonable deduction, you would have landed on probably 2 or 3 actresses, and her name would have probably been on the short list of people that she was talking about. And then when the show actually came out, then the woman who originally tweeted it was like, yes, this is who I was talking about. Yes, this was the show that I was talking about because this show just traumatized me, traumatized the way that they handled people of color on the set, et cetera, et cetera. So around the same time, I started seeing tweets about an individual who's up and coming, who is really not who he appears to be. And at the time, it was just like, food for thought. It was just out there.
Right.
But then that tweet started getting traction, and I started seeing other tweets. And then I saw a tweet. It was like right around the time that Valentine's Day cover dropped. What was it? Essence, with him on the front cover.
Yeah.
And while there was a conversation about masculinity and femininity as it pertained to that particular cover,
right,
there was another side conversation that was going on that a lot of people missed, which was somebody was saying, there's this guy who's an up-and-coming actor who women are fawning all over the internet for, about how fine he is, who some people have dubbed like not the replacement, but like the person who could come in and fill the gap that was left by Chadwick Boseman in terms of young Black actors who really seem to have a presence, right? And they were like, if you really knew how vicious and cruel he was on set and in real life, you wouldn't be fawning all over this man. And so when I read that tweet, I was like, I wonder who this person could potentially be talking about. And I was like, well, there's only one person that came to my mind, and that was Jonathan Majors. And the reason why is because, like, how many young actors do you know right now that people are fawning over? I mean, Damson Idris,
right, Michael
B. Jordan, but they're not, in my opinion, they haven't done anything that really commands like the same presence that Chadwick did. And the only person that I personally, and I'm not comparing him to Chadwick, Chadwick is in a category all his own. I'm just saying the only person that I could have seen somebody comparing to the loss in terms of skill, ability, and talent was Jonathan Major. Yes, we saw him in Lovecraft Country. Then he was in Ant-Man. Then he has this another movie that just went to the festival to Sundance that's supposed to be that got rave reviews, and we're seeing him in all these movies, and it kind of has the same trajectory as Chadwick Boseman in terms of the roles that he's taking and the things that he's doing. So that's what I saw. But I never paid any attention to it. I just left it there, and I said, okay, well, somebody tweeting something this obscure, it is what it is. I'm not gonna feed into it until I see proof. Right. Well, then this situation comes out, and woo, ma'am, it has been hitting the fan. Again, it's still a conversation that's happening to the side, but it's happening. Like, there are people who came out, because I believe he went to Yale's drama school. So there are people who went to Yale with him. There was like, I'm so glad that this is finally coming out. It was making me sick to my stomach that people have been like, praising him, and he is just an abusive individual. He's abused many women at the school. And it's funny because while that conversation is going on, the men who were chastising him for dressing in the pink and the red or whatever are now saying, oh, look at y'all tearing the Black man down. But y'all was just doing that. And so now that he's been accused of being physically aggressive and abusive to someone, now it's a different tune. And then there's also the conversation of the fact that this is what happens when Black men date white women, and he should have just left them alone, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Again, I'm of the mindset where it is not highly, if this is true, I would not be surprised. And if it gets brushed under the rug, his PR team, his lawyer, the Marvel people, the people who have invested a lot of money in him, have the money and the resources to really make sure that he is well protected and well cared for.
Agreed. If it
but it's only going to go so far because he's a Black man. So let that be there. And if he is an abusive person, if he is an abuser, then F his career, he can go to hell, right?
Right.
If he's not, and he is a victim of someone making things up, which I'm always on the side of the woman, even if she isn't a woman of color. I tend to kind of try to side with women. It's just one of those things. It's just unfortunate because his star power was burning hot, and he could have easily been one of the greats. And this is definitely, if not stopping him, going to slow him down significantly.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, but you can't do these things to people and not expect for there to be consequences or repercussions. And apparently, from what is being read, that the lawyer jumped out there a little too quickly.
Oh.
And it said, oh yeah, he there was a cab driver who witnessed this and da 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 da. And then somebody was like, well, the police report said this happened in a hotel. It didn't happen in the cab. So what are you talking about, sir? So there's a lot going on right now. And he was arraigned today. So he was arrested, let out on bail, and then got arraigned. So if he's arraigned today, I'm going to make the assumption that the DA feels like they have enough evidence to bring charges, to have brought charges forth against him. Now we'll see where this goes.
Right.
I'll follow it closely, but it's not looking good for your boy. It's not looking good for your boy. It's not looking good for your boy.
That could be karma, or it could be a story, but it could be karma.
Could be,
because you get to that point, and then everything gets snatched from you for all your past transgressions. Karma shows up when you least expect it.
Absolutely.
But whatever way this situation turns out, I hope that everyone gets what they are supposed to and justly do, right?
Yeah.
And that's for whatever that means.
Right.
Whatever that means.
Right. I had something else, but I'm not going to talk about that because I have to take us to a whole nother thing. So we'll take a quick break and we'll come right back and jump into our tea time segment. Hey. So, as we had stated earlier, today's topic is unconventional relationships, and this is going to be interesting, especially coming from two married women. We got two married women having this conversation. It's going to be interesting, right?
That part.
And it's funny because despite the progressions that we've made as a society, especially the Western world, there is still an overarching, often unspoken message that there is only one right way to conduct a romantic relationship. And if you're seeing what we're seeing in the news, there's an agenda that's being pushed, and it is for these right, quote unquote, ways to have a relationship.
TLC, because they be having or on OWN, they have a whole show about that.
Well, we know
I'll get into that.
Yes, we know
we'll
that.
We'll get into that in a second, but yeah.
So there is a belief still, a common belief that people are all striving towards an exclusive romantic coupling, and that if you somehow dare to go outside of those narrow bonds, right, that your relationship is clearly flawed. So if you're not just in this one man, one woman, or one, woman, one woman, one man, one man, however you see it. If you're not in a committed relationship with one other person, that somehow the relationship is flawed, it's unhealthy, it's non-committed, it's disloyal, there's no deep love, and you're just not living right? And we see it. We have friends. We're in relationships that kind of follow the script. But sometimes following the script doesn't always lead to good or contented relationships, right?
Nope. Because as we can see, wouldn't be so high.
Yes, we see it all the time. There's mismatches in relationship. A lot of people are resigned and miserable. There's dysfunction. Some people feel shoehorned into something that doesn't work for them. You name it, we can discuss it. And we know that following a script per se is not a recipe for a guaranteed great relationship. You and your partner have to decide and determine the health and joy of your relationship, however that looks. And that doesn't have anything to do with moving in the direction of what culture is saying is the right way to go. Right. Studies have shown that people in non-monogamous relationships tend to be better communicators. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that possibly is. Also, there is research that has shown that there's no less love in these types of relationships, nor are these relationships less committed or less trusting than the usual monogamous ones. And there's a lot of proof and research-wise via the experience of just real people. There are so many more ways to have a relationship now in this day and age. And these different types of relationships actually work for a lot of people. A lot of people are able to function better outside of what society deems as normal, and have very healthy, loving, committed, loyal relationships. So we're going to go ahead and get into some of those.
Right. Okay. All right. All right. All right. So, to be in the vein of what we just discussed as far as what we consider the narrow bounds, this is a little outside the lines as far as monogamish. I did not know this was a real word.
Neither did I.
But apparently it is. So basically, it's people in committed romantic relationships who are primarily monogamous, but will, occasionally dabble in casual sex if the opportunity arises. So, just to be clear, this is different from swinging. Monogamous people make outside connections an exception, not the rule, right? And it's kind of giving a hall pass. So I think one of the main things about this, it would seem, is that there is some communication going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So that the people in said monogamous relationship understand that it's monogamous, not that one person think it's monogamous and the other person is in a faithful monogamous relationship.
Right. Because I mean, and it is a very good example of a hall pass, like,
Yeah.
So, and I would say a more realistic hall pass, because people be like, oh yeah, I gave my wife a hall pass, and if she ever met Idris Elba, she can go ahead and sleep with him. Or I gave my husband a hall pass that if Halle Berry ever wanted to sleep with him, he could do it. Like, that's unrealistic, right? We're talking about realistic hall passes. Like, if you're on a business trip and you happen to be out and you become sexually attracted to, you get a vibe off of somebody and you're sexually attracted to them, and you want to have a one night stand, then that's a hall pass. You can do it. That's what we're talking about.
Right. And there's rules.
Yes. There's always has to be rules.
There has to be rules.
Comes back to the communication. And we're going to get into our thoughts. We're going to go through these and then get into our thoughts about each of these. And if we had to, if it was like life or death and we had to choose one of these options, which was what
would it be?
So another unconventional, I'm putting this in quotes, relationship is swinging.
Mm-hmm.
And so swinging is when a committed couple consensually has sex with people outside of their relationship, usually without romantic entanglement. So some swingers stick to group sex with their spouse, while others may go off on their own with a lover. Some swingers prefer strangers at clubs or parties. Others prefer and form long-term, even long life bonds with the couple they swap with. So this, you would say like this, it's like, say you went on a cruise, you meet this couple, they're really, you're vibing, you're great. And you're like, okay, so why don't we just swap?
Right.
Yeah, just swap. And maybe
then y'all go on vacation every year together now.
Yeah, every year together, and you swing and you're swapping and you're doing all that. I know that there are group trips for those that are so inclined, specifically geared to swinging, and it's usually sometimes a set group. It's the same group, and it could be like 20 people, that are in this particular group, and they go on trips, and this is what they do.
And resorts for that specifically.
Yes, resorts. Yes. I know. I remember recently I was following I'm friends with somebody on Facebook, and I don't really know them very well. I don't. I just know them in passing. I met them somewhere, and they befriended me on Facebook, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I remember meeting you. It's not a big deal. And then they started talking about like, oh, getting my pineapple tags ready for this. I don't know what the hell is she talking about. And I realized that is a universal thing that swingers do. They'll get pineapple tags or whatever and hang them on doors upside down or whatever to let you know that, yes, we are of the lifestyle. We're in the lifestyle and we are interested in doing that. Should you so choose to engage and participate. So, again, it could be group, or like I said, it could be people having these lifelong relationships or bonds with people that they feel comfortable doing that with and swapping. So, I mean, that, and swinging has been something that we've heard more, I think, over a longer term than any other of these.
That would be the prominent one. I think swinging is the go-to assumption when people
Yes.
think that you're stepping outside of your marriage.
Yes, yes, I
People
would say
ought to, I
that.
think traditionally for most years it was, oh, y'all are swingers.
Yeah.
And now there's more terms to delineate what that means.
Right. And this is good because this is a good segue because Will and Jada were always accused of being swingers when in
Right.
actuality they came out and said what they really were, which is the next type of unconventional relationship that we're going to talk
Yes.
about.
Which is the open relationship, right? This is what, like, most people were, like Zarifa said, confusing what they thought Will and Jada were doing. And those in a open relationship are committed romantic relationships who are free to date other people. Kind of understood that the two halves of the couple are romantically monogamous, but sexually non-monogamous. So there's that innate bond that they have for their partner, that is just for that person. So it's not like, you remember that episode that we talked about, I'm not a player anymore, I just date a lot. So it's not that, because when you're a player and you're stringing along a bunch of women, you're romantically involved or making them think that you have feelings for them when it could just be about bumping skins. Whereas this one, it's, I'm in love with someone else that is my main partner, but we like to go out and we have other relationships with other people, but we don't get to that love part.
Right. And the key word here is we. Not me, not you. It's a we thing because from having conversations with some of my friends who are single, the dating pool is filled with piss. And there's a lot of people out here claiming to be in an open relationship unbeknownst to their partner.
Unbeknownst to their partner. We call that cheating, folks. That is cheating. Okay?
Yes.
That is not what we're talking about.
So, and
both parties need to agree to this.
Yes, and Monique and her husband have been long proponents of open marriages, their relationship being open. And I would say personally, and then we'll get back into this. We'll have more discussion. Personally, I feel like these unconventional relationships are more. I feel like if you're married, then I feel like these apply more. If you're not married, if you're just dating, if you're just in a relationship, like. You just doing you. Like, that's my personal belief. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that, like, if you're not married, then this is just you doing you.
Pretty much. But you still need to let the other courtesy
Oh,
wise.
absolutely.
But like, I think this is one of those parts of the conversation where you're kind of like, so if you're dating somebody, but you're not sleeping with everybody that you're dating, but the other person knows that you're dating, are you obligated to tell that person but so much? Because you can date multiple people. And I guess that's one thing that I thought about. If you're dating multiple people at the same time, each of those people may fulfill something in you or for you that the main chick or the main dude may not be. But you still got your main dude.
I guess it just really but see, I think that's different than being in a committed relationship, because if you're in a committed relationship, then there is no other person that is fulfilling all those things. But if you're dating, then you're dating and you're just doing
and
you.
Then
everything is just what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm dating. We're not.
But
exclusive.
There's some people that be like, yeah, we dating, but we go together. But
no,
but you're dating.
It's an exclusive. Is there exclusivity?
Did you check the box? Will you be my girlfriend, boyfriend, significant other?
That's the difference. That's the difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably what I mean more. If you're in a committed, exclusive relationship, then yes, these apply. But if you're just out here dating, like, then you just date. But I guess then it's not a relationship, so never mind.
That is true. That is true.
Moving on.
But those are situationships.
Right.
We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, yes, situationships.
Situationships.
Polyamory is the practice of engaging in multiple romantic or intimate relationships simultaneously with the consent and knowledge of all parties. And because poly means many and amory means love, this is the type of ethical non-monogamy, usually focusing on having multiple loving relationships, which may not include sexual activity. So an example of that is, this is my husband and this is our girlfriend.
Right.
And we don't date anyone outside of us three. But if anything goes wrong, we're going to protect our marriage. So if a husband and wife are married and they have a girlfriend, if there's jealousy involved, if the girlfriend start acting up, okay, it's our marriage over, it's we over you.
Right.
At the end of the day. Or this is my partner and this is my girlfriend, and this is my girlfriend's other boyfriend, and this is her boyfriend's boyfriend. And we all live separately. Meaning,
I feel like that's dating in DC 101.
Pretty much.
Right there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's basically saying, look, we're in this polyamorous relationship where we understand that we are all romantically involved with others, and it's okay because we've had that conversation. And yes, some of these romantic relationships may involve sex, but they may not.
It's not assumed.
No, it's not assumed. And I think a lot of times when we talk about a lot of these relationships, some of these things that we're talking about, some people automatically assume that sex has to be like the premise, but sometimes it's not. It's really about romantic connection, and emotional connection.
Assume, especially with the swingers, they assume like, okay, it's Pornhub or something, 101.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's beyond that, which what we're talking about. But I think when people think unconventional, they automatically go to sex, which, yes, that's a part of it. But for polyamory, there's an actual intimate romantic relationship there.
Right.
That changes the dynamic of it. And then that kind of goes into that one step further would be polyfidelity, a throuple, right? And this is becoming a little bit more mainstream. The other day I was watching House Hunters and a throuple was on there. I was like, well, I'll be damned. Okay. Look at here.
All right. Who knew? I didn't.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And that's a specific arrangement where 3 or more people agree to be romantically committed to one another. And like, that's like, I guess kind of like sister wives, but not. So it's similar to monogamy. It's a closed relationship between 2 people, except the polyfidelity has more than 2. So that person could be like, that is my husband and that is my wife and that is my wife. Or that is my husband.
Or my husband, wife, girlfriend, like we said earlier. Right. But it's all about being romantically committed to each other.
And taking care of each other's needs and being pledging fidelity to that relationship.
Right.
So it's a different dynamic.
Yeah, it's not like polyamory where it's just like there's multiple, meaning there could be 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 people in a polyamorous all thrusted into this, but this is a throuple. It's just the 3 of us, and we're not adding anybody else into the mix. It's just going to be us 3, but it's still polyamorous in the sense that it's still more than 2 people who are involved in a romantic relationship.
Right. Exactly.
And this one was a new one to me, relationship anarchy, which is more of an approach than it is a relationship. It's more of an approach to a relationship than it is a relationship structure. And it is a practice or philosophy that people are considered free to engage in any relationship they choose at any time. It rejects assumed hierarchies between different types of relationships and erases the distinction between partner and non-partner. It's not about never committing to anything. It's about designing your own commitments with people around you and freeing yourself from the norms that dictate, that certain type of commitments require certain things to be real. They're not worried about labels. And it's kind of like blowing up the construct of what we think. So what this probably would look like is like, okay, I'm married. I'm married, but I am romantically involved with somebody else. And I don't really, just because I'm married doesn't mean that I hold my wife at a higher regard than I hold the person that I'm romantically involved in. I don't believe that. I don't believe in hierarchies. I believe in doing whatever makes me feel good in the moment. So Valentine's Day, I want to spend time with my romantic partner. I can do that, as opposed to, spending time with my wife, because I don't hold a title. A title doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
That's
There are
what
some people that are
relationship.
doing this unbeknownst to their partner.
Well, that's
And
true.
and they're like, I don't hold my wife on any higher regard. So I'm gonna go hang out with my side piece on her birthday and on Valentine's Day in the evening. But I'll be
Right.
with my wife in the morning, but I think they're the same, they get the same treatment. Or I got the wife a little Neverfull. I got her the big Neverfull, and I got the girlfriend a Speedy or
Right.
something. But there's no hierarchy in that. You would be like, oh, I'm gonna get both of them the same Neverfull, and they're like equal, even
I
though it's
guess.
not. But that's
I
how they may
guess.
see it.
Right. I think with relationship anarchy, it's really about autonomy, right? When we're taught about when we're taught about relationships, we're taught that there is no autonomy, kind of like you become one with the person that you're in this relationship with.
Right.
Whereas with, I think, relationship anarchy, it's more like, hey, I do what I want to do
When I want to
when I
do
want to
it.
do it with whoever I want to do it. I don't have these notions of what's right and what's not, the hierarchy, who's more important than the other. That doesn't matter. I'm my
It
own
feels like
person.
very like free love
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
1970s
yeah, yeah,
peace,
yeah.
man. Like
Yeah.
we're just vibing with each other, and I'm gonna be with you today, and maybe I'll see you next week. If not, I'm gonna go with Sally tomorrow.
Right, right, right.
And no
Right.
harm, no hard feelings, because I'm
Right.
not putting you in a box.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. That's interesting. It intrigues me.
Yeah.
Then there's this is getting a lot of traction lately. I saw this on Fox 5 News the
Oh yeah,
last
yeah.
week
Oh yeah, yeah.
about living apart together. Also known as LAT. Let's lat it up. Refers to couples who are in intimate relationships but choose to live separately for various reasons. These can be financial, personal, or both. There's a friend. There's people that we know that would be like, yeah, that's where I'm at. I could do that. And it was a big thing on the news the other day. Like, oh yeah, I live on a house across the street, and my husband lives on the other side, and then we meet up for date night, and then at the end of the night, if we want to do something, I go back to his place or vice versa, and then they go home. I said,
Yeah.
oh, so it's like dating,
Yes. Yes.
but not, because you
But you're
got your own
married.
stuff,
Right.
and you can set up your household the way you see fit. There's some cohabitation benefits to marriage, but without the painful reality of divorce that may be the case.
Well, no. That is not. That is the other.
Oh, that's the other
Yeah,
one.
that's
Sorry,
it.
I jumped ahead. I was like, wait, that don't sound right.
No,
Yeah.
that you're speaking of is choosing long-term cohabitation. Cohabitation.
Hoban habitation.
Cohabitation. We doing some cohabitation over here.
Over here.
Choosing long-term cohabitation over
Right.
marriage. I see this more so happening as a trend with the younger
Yeah.
generation, because they voiced a number of concerns about getting married, and they would rather just cohabitate and be married. You know, me for the very long time. And I was in my 20s. I was like, I will do the Goldie Hawn, Kurt Russell thing in a
Yeah.
minute. Goldie
You've
Hawn,
always
Kurt
said that.
Russell, me. I've always said that.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think it's because some people just haven't never seen, a lot of people choose this, especially the younger generation, because they just haven't seen healthy, functioning relationships,
Yeah.
and they're afraid to get into something and then it doesn't work. So their solution to that is like, we don't have to get married. We can just cohabitate and we can live together for 30 years. And if
Right.
at 30 years you don't want to be with me anymore, okay, deuces. We don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of trying to get divorced and separating assets and doing all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty much already separated and you can go about your way.
So at what point does that change into common law marriage?
Well, it depends on where you are. That's a legal. That term annoys me because people just feel like if they've been married for a certain amount of time that they automatically become common law, but that's not
No,
how it
that's
works.
not how
There are
this
certain
works.
jurisdictions that allow for that. I think
Right.
Pennsylvania is one of the ones that after, and I don't know, don't quote me because I haven't looked at the Pennsylvania statute in a very, 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 very long time. But if you've been married, I think it was like for 7 years.
Yeah.
then you would automatically be deemed common law, meaning you would be entitled to all the benefits thereof of a regular legal binding marriage. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then, there's this next part, which intrigues me, but I can understand based on what the nature of a relationship is between two people. And that's maintaining a sexless or mostly sexless relationship by choice, not by default. Okay? That's a difference. So, although asexuality has been gaining more visibility recently, our culture still has a difficult time understanding, how someone can have a meaningful, satisfying relationship, you know, and there just be no sex or no sexual attraction. But it's important to remember that for some people, sex and romance are not inherently linked. Some people really do truly separate out, and that's okay for some people.
I think
Sometimes,
I
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I don't equate the two all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have a romantic relationship with someone that does not involve sex, and then you can have a sex-filled
Sex.
relationship that does not involve any kind of
Romance.
romance.
Also known as a booty call. Or a
and
hookup.
and I feel like this is also something that happens this is unwittingly. A lot of marriages go through this after
Right.
a baby gets introduced, and it's for multiple reasons, hormones and all kinds of other things.
Right.
But
Most couples aren't
sometimes,
necessarily happy with that if that's not
no,
what they
they are not. No,
choose.
they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so another one that we have is the large age difference, which I would still say is unconventional to a
Yeah.
certain degree, but I feel like it's more seen as unconventional for women than it is for men.
Yes.
For men,
Keanu
it
Reeves'
seems
lady is
like
older than him.
right. The Prime Minister of France.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a whole nother, because their relationship is a little suspect anyway. But um, I feel like women get pass judgment more for dating someone younger than them than men do.
Mm-hmm.
But in society, I think it's been deemed more acceptable, because when marriage was just looked at as a construct where you're just procreating, having
Right.
children to kind of carry on your legacy, it made sense if a 50-year-old man marries a 20-year-old woman, because
Hello, Game of Thrones.
after 35, we all know that a woman's fertility starts to drop.
Yep.
So it's going to be, if you're a 45-year-old man and you want children, you're probably not going to marry a 45-year-old woman
Mm-hmm.
if you've never had kids. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's
Auntie
just,
Ayala, she just posted that she's okay with if her partner were to take on a younger woman, and there was some inference to that effect that it's because she could have children.
but that's a whole nother, that's an open, really, I don't know what that is. I mean, it's large age difference, but then it's also like open marriage. I don't
Sister,
know.
wife,
Sister wives,
open,
yeah,
poly,
I don't know.
something. Wasn't really
I don't
understanding
know.
that when I was like, oh,
I don't know.
okay, all
Um,
righty.
I feel like with the age difference though, like I feel like there's going to be some challenges when this like phase of life
Mm-hmm.
like comes up. Like if you're a 50-year-old man, and if you like look at Anna Nicole Smith, I mean, she
I
made
was
out
just
her
about to
husband
say Anna
died, and
Nicole.
she, but I mean,
But like, all right, y'all, sidebar. So this, when I first moved to DC in 2000, I lived in Southwest DC, which is now where the Nationals Park is. There was a place next to Zanzibar called Pier 70 or
mm-hmm.
something like, right? That, when I got in, met some older ladies that were ended up being my aunties of sort. They were like, "Ooh, girl, we got to get you over to get to Pier 70." I said, "For what?" She's like, "Girl, get you a sugar daddy. All you got to do is push them around in their wheelchair and you'll be good." I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, the age difference is a little bit big, but they'll take care of you. They just want someone to sit on their lap a little bit and just adjust their oxygen tank." I said, "What?" But girl, when I tell you that shit was real. So I went over there one day with them and I said, "There really are men on the dance floor with oxygen tanks. And their girlfriends looking like Anna Nicole Smith."
No, ma'am.
I
No, ma'am.
said, I'm good. They're like, "Girl, they're gonna get you a car, they're gonna get you an apartment, they get you some spending money. All you
I
gotta do
mean,
is sit
hey,
there."
that's another unconventional
It
relationship, sugar
is.
babies and sugar daddies. I
Sugar
mean,
daddies.
but
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Sugar daddies and sugar mamas.
and sugar
And
babies.
cougars.
Yeah.
Cougars is
I
another
mean, but
one.
that's the age difference, right? I mean, the sugar
Yeah.
babies, sugar daddies, sugar mamas, all of that is all based in age. People want, and I mean, and it's common. Like I said, like it seems like what's his name? Leonardo DiCaprio has a cap. It's like once they hit 25, it's a
You know
wrap.
what? That is true. He
It's a
be cutting
wrap.
them
He's
off.
done.
He
He's
cut them
like,
off at a certain
ain't
age.
nothing cut that bitch.
Facts on
Leonardo
facts.
DiCaprio is like, no, you hit 25, it's a wrap. And it's kind of disgusting when you think about it, but also hilarious.
Because he's getting older.
Yeah. I mean, look at George Clooney. He was the perpetual bachelor.
Yeah.
He met his wife, but his wife was much younger than him, and they had babies. They had twins. Well, I'm not going to say that. But I'm just saying, like, it is definitely something that's more commonly accepted when it comes to men. It's like when a woman does it, yeah, it's like you're a cougar, but like I feel like people are disgusted by it or like pass judgment about it. Yeah. Like older women seem to be more disposable in this society. Yes. It's like once you hit a certain age, it's just like, oh, you can't be sexy, you can't be attractive.
None of that. That's whole misogyny in play.
Right. Which kind of ties into one of the things I wanted to talk to about earlier in the hot tea. And this is kind of like a sidebar. They were talking about Golden Girls. I saw this very good Twitter thread about the Golden Girls and why so many of Generation X and older millennials and the LGBTQIA community really like still Golden Girls is still as popular today as it was when it first came out. And why? And one of it is because there's so many of us can relate to it. Like if you're 40 or 50, you're looking at these women who are still vivacious, living life. And like Blanche was a whole mood. Blanche was out here getting her.
Talk about what?
Blanche was out here, but listen, seriously. Blanche was out here doing the damn thing. Sophia was going on dates. Rose had a serious relationship. Dorothy wound up getting married later. Like, I mean, so it gave you hope that it's not too late.
Yes, and you are not disposable, and you haven't shriveled up. Yes, I thought that was the best part. Like seriously, at that age, that they're like, yeah, we still having sex, and what? Yes. I'm 70 years old and we still knocking boots. I say, oh.
Yes. But then there was this whole conversation, and we could talk about this at another time because it's not really on topic, but there was this whole conversation about how like a lot of us grew up as latchkey kids. And so we looked to them and they were very motherly. And like, you know, if you were gay, it seems like they were very accepting and welcoming of that lifestyle. And so it made you feel accepted and warm. And you know, when you look at it, that's an unconventional relationship. If you want to think about it, it's 4 women living together in a house, older, you know what I'm saying? Like all just at a different stage in their life. Their children are grown. And, but it's definitely something I want to talk more about when we get into a episode about pop culture and how it kind of formulated a lot of our beliefs and systems and ideas. But yeah, right. That was just,
True that. So, you know, we had mentioned previously about looking at some questions that we wanted to discuss and ask. And one of the ones that came up was, if you had to choose one unconventional relationship above that we had mentioned, what would it be and why?
I'm curious to see what some of our listeners would say to this, but if I had to choose, living apart together.
I might be on that one with you.
Living apart together seems to be the best in my mind. Because I mean, if you're a woman and you live with a man, you just already know why.
Right. You like we've said enough.
I mean,
we've said enough.
I mean, and that seems to be the most one that I can relate to the most. If there was like a second one after that, if I had to kind of choose, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Like I really feel like maybe cohabitation.
Oh, well, yes, cohabitation.
Yeah.
But but I mean like even more of the ones that are a little less like safe, because I feel like living apart together and cohabitation are the safe choices. Yeah. If I had to pick an unsafe choice, Lord, if I had to pick, okay. If somebody put a gun to my head and said you have to pick one of these unsafe, and when I say unsafe, I'm talking about just like the answer that's not as like, whoo, like you're clutching your pearls. If I had to, I think probably monogamish. A hall pass here or there if I had to choose.
But because at least there would have been some conversation, some communication about it, and you're not out here living your best married life, so you think, and other shit's going on behind your back.
Right.
So I feel like the monogamish one is the closest where, okay, we had to talk about it. It happened. This shit better not happen again unless I say so, or all that other stuff. But I feel like it's a fine line. You're playing with danger right there.
But I mean, but if we're speaking just exclusively on, because all of these these unconventional relationships require a level of communication. You cannot engage in any of these. Nothing that we've said you cannot engage in if there isn't some healthy communication that is going on between you and your partner
as a we
to discuss what the parameters of this is going to be. And we're going to get into the do's and don'ts in a minute. Right. The other question was like, is there a gender bias? Well, we've already talked about that. Yeah. I think so. I think with all of these relationships, there is a gender bias. And that I feel like if a man approaches his wife or his partner with the idea of engaging in an unconventional relationship, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. But if a woman does it, it's like, what you mean? What time are you on?
Where are you going with that? You better go on with your bad self by yourself to do that shit. Yeah, because I don't feel like it would be received.
I want to ask some of our male friends.
We gotta bring them on.
If you're a man who is listening, I'm curious as to if your wife or your partner came to you and said, "Hey, I'm really in thinking about getting into an unconventional relationship," and we're not talking about a threesome, right? That's different.
Right. That's a moment in time.
Right. We're talking about something that is ongoing. If they came to you and said that, how would you react to that? I'm very curious because I can't speak for men because I don't know because I'm not a man.
I think they have their bias. If it's a chick,
I feel like they would. I feel like
they would look at their wife like, sideways. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah. If it's a dude, what?
Well, yes. Well, okay, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it depends. I feel like
depending on the type of relationship, I feel like if we're talking about
non-sexual romantic relation, I don't know. I can't say. I don't know. If you're a man out there and you're listening,
and I'm just saying, and I'm not saying this to exclude any particular population, but I feel like men cannot handle half the shit they want to project and put out there. So they will be like, yeah, my wife could go get a girlfriend, but damn it if she gonna get a boyfriend. Because that to men is an ego thing for some.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're gonna say, well, hell no, but let her be a chick. But then they're like, if the man comes and says, I want you to get a girlfriend, the women's ego apparently doesn't mean as much. I know, and they will do their damnedest to try to convince the wife or the partner to bring in another female. But if you flip it and the wife still tries to convince the dude, that I feel like that's just gonna go left, way quicker.
I would say that a lot of the shows that we've been watching, except for the new one that's out on TLC,
oh yeah, the
like Poly Husband or whatever,
Brother Husband,
brother.
I was like Brother Husband,
Brother Husband. But for the most part, when we see TV shows or examples of polyamorous relationships, it tends more typically to be a man with multiple women.
Well, right.
I've rarely seen a man with, men and women in the mix.
Right.
I've rarely seen that portrayed on TV or otherwise.
I was surprised
in a fictional or non-fictional way.
Right. So. I was really surprised that after we had discussed doing this episode that I saw, Auntie Iyanla's comment, and then I saw the Polly Andrews show, and I was like, what? I mean, but we stay on top. We stay on topic.
Yeah.
Just by chance. With a lot of our stuff. So I don't know. But,
I'm curious if there's, and I doubt anybody would mention this, but if you are in one of these relationships, what happens when you want to stop? I'm curious to figure that out because how does it work? Because
let us know. I'm intrigued.
I don't know if that would work. I don't know, unless it's, again, a conversation that you had in the beginning to say at any time one of us wants to stop, we have to stop. But that just seems like very treacherous waters that you are treading, because maybe my romantic relationship, like with Monique and her husband, right? Monique says she doesn't want to do it anymore, but her husband's like, well, slow down.
Okay, but I'm going to slow down, though. What the hell that mean?
And that's what I'm saying. It just seems very dangerous.
That just seems like you heading for the D and the divorce.
Right. I don't know. But like when we talk about the do's and the don'ts, right, of these unconventional relationships, the biggest thing is honesty, right? You have to be honest with your partner. You have to have the ability to approach the conversation with your partner in a very respectful, meaningful, mindful way. You have to do it for the right reasons. You have to set sexual boundaries.
Yeah.
You have to discuss protection. Hello, ding, ding, ding.
Hello, please and thank you, folks. Come on.
You have to set emotional boundaries, and you have to address jealousy rationally and calmly. But I kind of feel like these relationships can only work for very emotionally mature, adjusted, therapized, if that's a word.
It's a word today.
Therapized people, because I feel like if you're not in tune with who you are and not comfortable in your skin and know who you and your partner are, this is gonna go left. And I'm not I'm not judging or dissuading anybody from engaging in these types of relationships, because again, it absolutely works for a lot of people. I'm just curious, because I'm just like, how do you set emotional boundaries? You know what I mean? Like, how do you deal with jealousy? Because it's bound to happen, right? Especially if you deeply love and care for somebody.
Of course, it's bound to happen. And how do you? And then I think some people, and we had talked about this when we were discussing this topic, that there are some people that, if you're getting emotionally tied to somebody, and then that other person gets tied to the other person, how do you reconcile those conversations?
Right.
Because you can still love that person. So even to go a step further, let's say you love that person, but you're no longer in love with that person.
Right.
But emotionally, you're mature enough to be in a relationship that's sexless with that person because you love that person. But the fire is gone, or nobody wants to try to make it work. So you go and step out and you let that person know. Like, there's some folks that when they have a partner and they get to a certain age or dealing with a life situation, that person may give their partner permission to go off and do whatever.
The monogamish.
Yeah, where that person is no longer capable of satisfying that or fulfilling that role in their relationship. But that person still has love for that other person that's deep and caring, but they're just not able to perform that particular.
But I feel like that's a separate set of circumstances, right? That I could see is more it can be understandable.
But you still get jealous because you can't do that
but
anymore.
I mean, I feel like, for me personally, if this was a situation that I had found myself in, and it was like an unconventional relationship, I feel like I would be more drawn to relationships where there was no romantic aspects to it, that it was purely based in a sexual nature, only because romantic ties tend to complicate things a lot more than when you engage in just pure sexual,
that always messes the hookups.
Well, yeah, I guess
everybody catching feelings, you're like, oh, this was. When you friends with benefits, and then someone inevitably someone catches feelings,
right,
and then it changes the dynamic.
It absolutely does, and that's why I said I think that I would surmise, and I don't know, again, because I don't know anybody personally. Well, let me not say I don't know anybody personally. If I know somebody personally that is in one of these relationships, they have not expressed that to me. So I may know people that engage in these different types of relationships. They just haven't had that conversation with me about it. So, oh crap, my microphone almost fell off. Okay. Tell the truth, shame the devil. So I I just am curious as to how this all plays out, how this works. I am, but again, just from a logical standpoint, the way that my brain works, I couldn't see myself being in a quote unquote unconventional relationship that had an element of romance to it. But for the simple fact that I feel like the emotional boundaries, that would, I think those lines would start to blur, and I feel like that would start to cause a lot of unnecessary angst and chaos in the relationship. I just personally, I feel like that for me. But there could be people who like, nah, it's not like that,
I
because
think a
me
lot
and
more
my
people are
partner.
doing it whether they know it or not. I mean
What?
that and I mean it on both sides. Like, I feel like there are a lot of people who are comfortable enough to live this lifestyle.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then there's people that are living this lifestyle, but they don't know.
But then they're not living the lifestyle.
According to people in the street, depending on what the other partners tell. Because if another partner's like, yeah, me and my wife are in an open relationship, we have an understanding, but the understanding stops with the person who's telling the other people that there's an understanding.
Then that person's just a liar.
I'm just saying.
That person is just.
I completely agree, but I also feel that, like, there are some people that are truly comfortable in this life, in these choices of lifestyle.
I feel like absolutely. I feel like there are people who this is where they reside, and I mean, when you look at, if you have a very basic animalistic conversation about relationships and monogamy, you could say being monogamous is not natural, right? It is unnatural for us to be in relationships with just one person. There are people who can make that argument, and there's a lot of data or whatever to support. There's only
a few seahorses and penguins. Those are the animals. Those in the animal kingdom that stay with their main partner. Then you go into the lions, and the lion got a whole brood of chicks,
right?
Lionesses.
So
he's living that polyamorous life.
Exactly. So I feel like for some, it's one of those situations. Like, yes, you could be very comfortable in it, and I feel like maybe if we were younger, of a different generation, it probably would be more acceptable, more open, more. We would be more willing to. I would say explore, but I feel like if you're older, if you're a boomer, if you're Gen X, maybe even an early millennial, that's not something that you even want to engage in, because you just feel like, okay, for example, perfect example, and then with Will and Jada, right? Clearly, there was an entanglement, and I think the entanglement was their open relationship was just supposed to be you sex and that's it. And I feel like somebody along the way, maybe Jada, got emotionally involved when she wasn't supposed to, which created an environment that created problems for them. And we see that because August Alsina came out and said all of this stuff, and then it's kind of embarrassing, right, for them.
Right.
But again, that's their relationship. You know what I'm saying? We don't really know what. And I also feel like that situation was a little too close to home. I feel like from just what I've seen and heard, all allegedly, that Will Smith was doing his dirt well away from home. And she got a little too comfortable and started engaging in situations that, okay, now we know this person, and this is too close. Because I know
there are too many ties, too many connections within the family.
Right. I know one person specifically that he was entangled with, and this woman was on his social media. She was kind of like his assistant, he was helping her kind of thing, and then she just disappeared off the scene, and this was all around at the same time. But you ain't heard that from me. But anyway, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like, oh, you know what? Maybe we could do a part 2 to this, and maybe if we can find some people who are engaged in this type of lifestyle, and they can have the conversation. And if you're out there, we will keep you anonymous. Nobody has to know who you are.
Nobody has to know who you are.
Because we're
I
really
would like
curious.
to ask, like, so did you decide this in the beginning of your relationship, or did it happen midway through your relationship when you get to the 7-year itch mark, or you're well into your 20th year of marriage, and you're like, look, we need to do something, and this is an option. I'm gonna give you a hall pass, or we're gonna bring in a girl. Like, is there a stage in your relationship where you come in and say, I know we didn't start out like this, but this is something that I want to look into? And how do you approach that? Mm-hmm. And then where does that go in the relationship, knowing that your partner is no longer satisfied with the way the situation is, and you say no, and that person is the one who brought it to you, then where do you go from there? Or do you just acquiesce to try to make it work? And then you try it and you're like, this ain't for me. Does the marriage, does the relationship break up? Because you still love that person. Right. Maybe or maybe not. What are the dynamics for that?
I'm very curious. So hopefully we can find somebody.
We're putting a call out. Anybody who's involved in any of these lifestyles that we've mentioned, we'd love to talk to you.
If you like hanging pineapples on your doorknob.
Hey, pineapple.
Please let us know. But with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and get to the last sip of tea with your hood Dalai Lama. And we're back. The last sip of tea with your hood Dalai Lama, and I am your hood Dalai Lama. I have nothing other than do you. Whatever floats your boat, engage in it. If it's polyamory, if it's living apart together, if it's, monogamish, whatever it is, as long as you're being honest and you're communicating, you're setting boundaries, and you are using protection, I say go have at it and, be happy. And that is the last sip of tea with your hood Dalai Lama.
All right. Thank you for joining us this week on Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. As you know, you can follow us on Instagram at sippintea_Nat and Z _pod, and on Facebook, at Sippin' Tea, Nat and Z, to get information on upcoming podcast topics, guests, and news. Thanks for listening, and catch us next episode where we get into healing our inner child. Be safe out there, but have fun.